Hey Facebook gang, welcome back to the Executive Chef Catering Facebook page. Chef Ron is on. First time in a long time. Trying to earn that money, you know, stacking paper, that sort of thing. The special occasion today, corned beef and cabbage. This is the one time of the year that your Italian trained chef boils a bunch of meat and people love it. Go figure. Corned beef and cabbage is on the menu. We wanted to talk a little bit today about what corned beef is. People ask me all the time, how do they corn beef? Is it really corn? Corned beef is actually an Irish traditional dish. It's was actually a translation of corned beef and bacon. Around the late 19th century, they started using canned corned beef instead of bacon. Cheaper, a little better for you, easier to quickly accumulate. Let's look at a couple of different, I want to show a couple of different types of corned beef. This type of corned beef that you are probably going to have. This is the flat cut corned beef from your local Stop and Spend. You know, not bad, 3-4 pound average. It's good if you're making just for a couple people at home. What we use are these 10, 12, 15 pound chunks of corned beef brisket. Now these are done in the brine. It's actually corned beef comes from the term, but they're basically brined in rock salt. And that's where it got its name. The rock had sort of cornish kernels. They say they would corn the beef, just meant to process it in a brine of rock salt. So this, you're probably saying to yourself, geez, Ron, that looks pretty fatty. I'd prefer the Stop and Spend piece. Well, once we trim out the fat on this, I'll show you the differences between your regular flat cut and this beautiful commercial grade corned beef. Also, this wonderful fatty, sort of nasty looking watery brine. We're going to steam the cabbage and the carrots in, which is what's going to make it so awesome. And I'm going to show you how to do that right now. So for the dinner part of this, potatoes, cabbage, and carrots. We're not reinventing the wheel here. Potatoes, basically we're just going to cut these in two, 1-inch chunks. Traditionally, red bliss potatoes. We don't have red blisses right now, so we're going to do like a rosemary butter potato. It's going to be awesome. The cabbage, there's only one little trick to it. You just peel out the outer leaves and cut the core. You can save these for coleslaw if you like. We'll cut the core into little wedges. Now, as we cut these wedges, we're going to leave that chunk of core right on. I usually cut the very tip right out, but this core part's going to hold it together as we put it up on the plate. Cut them into, I don't know, fifths, tenths, depending on how big your cabbage head is. The carrots, we're just going to slice them up. That's fine. Now comes the real master chef stuff. Pay attention, you're watching close. We're going to boil everything. Potatoes go in. The cabbage. And be careful. It hurts when it splashes. And the carrots. Boom. How do you know they're done? They're tender, but they're not like mush. Stick a fork in it. Now the main event, the corned beef. Remember we talked about that Stop and Spend piece? Well, here it is. Started at, this was almost 4 pounds. It's less than 2. You're gonna get 50% reduction in your meat. So when you're buying it, you factor this in. You got real big eaters. I usually like to buy a pound per person. You'll end up with 8, 9, 10 ounces. Now here's our piece. You remember the fatty part? We've let them cool down. We're just gonna trim the fat off to the outside here. We've already pulled a lot of the fat. That's sort of that corned beef grease that's in the top of our water. But this is why ours is going to be so delicious. Look at the marbling in this brisket. We're not eating this for this. This is not the health food diet. We're not going to take this to the gym, but once a year, you want something that tastes like corned beef. We're going to cook about 45-50 minutes per pound. We're going to get all of this fat in the middle of the brisket out. And it's actually going to be pretty lean, all things considered. Perfect. So we get this inner fat out. Back into the bath for another 10-15 minutes. We're going to slice it up. It's going to be perfect, good to go. So how do you know that it's done? Remember, you stick a fork in it. Stick a fork in me, Mom. Done. Carrots are perfect. Let's start with those. Whoops. Remember, gang, can't stress this enough. Be careful. You're dealing with a bunch of boiling water here. It gets real painful when you get splashed. Ron, why aren't you wearing those long chef coats? Isn't that why the sleeves are long in those things? Robin didn't do the laundry this week. She's mad at me. So today we did the authentic style. Big carrots cut up. See there's a little corned beef in there. And in case this wasn't greasy enough, I didn't invent this recipe, folks, please. A little bit of butter. And we're going to chef it up a little bit with some mint instead of parsley. A little salt and pepper. A bing toss, and our first thing is done. Now the papas. What? Just a little bit of butter. Sale, baby. Bang. That's done. I probably cook this a little less than a lot of traditional Irish cooks would. I'll have to consult with Mr. Murphy on that one, also known as John Java. They're still holding together. They still have a little bit of color left to them, but you know, these are definitely done. So wilted cabbage leaf, it's good to go. I'm gonna lay off the butter, a little salt and pepper only, and because I really want these to pick up mostly the flavor of the corned beef and the corned beef stock. It's messy, somewhat odorous, painful, but once a year, there's nothing like little corned beef and cabbage. The brisket has got a definitive grain to it. We're going to cut against the grain and at a little angle. Now, you see how this, the easiest way to tell, you see how this guy is sort of pointing up? I like to start with that guy on an angle, of an angle, and there we go. And you'll see, look at this, coming out of JJ. It holds together, and yet it falls apart. It's perfectly cooked, boiled. Go. A little bit of this brine, a little bit of the stock, and good to go. Sorry, Dr. Fisher, lunch going to be a little late, but I wanted to film this one. Corned beef and cabbage, traditional Irish dinner. We're going to serve with some nice brown mustard, horseradish, and a little bit of coleslaw. Happy St. Patty's Day. Love you, my Irish peeps. Like it, dispute it, hate it, share it down at the bottom of the page. See you next time. Chef Ron's on the Executive Chef Catering Facebook page.